Okay, we are just past the top of the hour. Welcome to our webinar, Driving Networking and Security Convergence, Navigating the Service Provider Landscape. I'm Sarah from Claro Enterprise Solutions, and I'll be your host for today's session. A big thanks to all of you for joining us and taking some time out of your day to be here. We have some great content lined up, and we'll be joined by guest speaker Octavio Garcia Granados from Forrester. I just want to go over a few housekeeping items before we get started. All attendees will remain muted for the duration of the session. However, we do encourage you to ask your questions as we go, so feel free to type those into the chat box or the Q&A feature that you'll find located on your Zoom toolbar. I'll be monitoring those, and we will reserve about 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the session to answer those questions. And anyone who's registered and or attended today's session, you will receive a link to the recording following the webinar. So in case you want to revisit the session or share with some colleagues, you should be on the lookout for that sometime tomorrow afternoon. All right, so let's dive in. Many organizations are evaluating and adopting Secure Access Service Edge or SASE services, yet face challenges in identifying the right service partner and addressing technology adoption challenges. In today's session, we'll hear from Claro Enterprise Solutions and Forrester to learn service providers' business value, market maturity and dynamics, differentiating business scenarios and capabilities, what to look for in your service provider, and future market vision. Our aim here today is to provide you with strategies to effectively select the most appropriate SASE service provider to support your organization's business outcomes. So introducing today's presenters. From Claro Enterprise Solutions, we have Domenica Del Cioppo. She is the Product Marketing Manager for Cybersecurity and IoT, bringing over 5 years of experience in the technology space. With a strong background in developing go-to-market strategies for IT products, Domenica has played a key role in developing technologies that enhance digital and physical security. Her passion for the IT industry and its potential to drive innovation and sustainability fuels her commitment to her work. We also have Cesar Salazar, our COO here at Claro Enterprise Solutions. He oversees our product development, engineering, and operations, and is responsible for strategizing the technological evolution and ensuring operational alignment across the company's product offerings. Cesar is recognized for his pivotal role in successfully leading the technical architecture design and negotiating the technical contract for the company's largest international deal across the Americas, including IT and telecom services. Before joining Claro Enterprise Solutions, Cesar served as the Architecture Engineer Director at Telmex USA. And last but definitely not least, we have our guest speaker today, Octavio Garcia Granados, Senior Analyst from Forrester Research. He's a Senior Analyst serving business and technology leaders. His research focuses on networking technology and strategy, emerging technologies such as 5G, 6G, IoT, and edge computing, private and public telecom network trends, assurance frameworks covering network, service, and application layers, network-aware software development lifecycle strategies, and the impact of networking on digital customer experiences. So thank you all for participating in today's session. And at this point, I will hand it over to you, Domenica.
Thank you, Sarah. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this webinar. Well, we're going to start by discussing briefly what is SASE and why it's becoming relevant for modern enterprises. So SASE, or Secure Access Service Edge, is really about bringing together security and networking functions in a unified cloud-native service. The purpose of SASE is to ensure that no matter where the users are located, they can connect to applications securely and efficiently. And this is especially critical as more organizations are adopting remote work and cloud-based services. SASE typically focuses on 5 different components. We have SD-WAN, Secure Web Gateway, Cloud Access Security Broker, Firewall as a Service, and Zero Trust Network Access. Usually, SD-WAN and Firewall as a Service lie within the network level, and Secure Web Gateway, Cloud Access Security Broker, and Zero Trust Network Access lie within the security level. And now you might be wondering, which customers really need SASE? Well, the answer is that any organization looking to protect itself from advanced security threats and are looking to streamline their network management. Now, the following slide, we will discuss market trends and what is really driving SASE adoption nowadays. Well, first, the remote workforce. There are more people working from anywhere, and there's a need to secure access to corporate resources. And with SASE, companies will ensure safe and reliable connections for all remote employees working from home. Next, we have cloud migration. As organizations are moving to cloud-based application and saving their data, their sensitive data in the cloud, they need security that extends beyond the traditional perimeters. With SASE, we can provide the protection necessary for the data living in the cloud. Next, we have increased cyber attacks and security threats. This is a huge factor because with increasing cyber threats and regulatory requirements, SASE offers an integrated security framework that addresses these risks comprehensively. And lastly, we have cost efficiency. Nowadays, many companies are dealing with many different vendors and many different cybersecurity technologies. So it is crucial to manage multiple security and networking solutions. Nowadays, it's really costly and complex. Give me 1 second to plug in my... Sorry about that.
All right. With SASE, we can simplify this by combining functions into one solution and reduce costs and complexity. Now we can go to the following slide. Well, taking a look at this graphic, we can see that usually SASE lies within 3 different security layers. SASE usually protects data security, application security, and perimeter and network security. But at Claro Enterprise Solutions, we provide a more comprehensive cybersecurity approach because we also provide endpoint security with Zero Trust endpoint security and physical security with AI video analytics. The reason why we integrate physical security measures into our cybersecurity strategy is because we really want to provide a holistic approach to protect your business. This means we don't just stop at the perimeter, but we also go further to protect your most critical assets. We also help companies with advisory, integration, implementation, and management services. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Just complementing what Domenica was talking about, I would like to take the opportunity to introduce Claro Enterprise Solutions from the presence perspective. We are a leading provider of comprehensive network connectivity, IoT, cloud, and security services. With a presence in 25 countries, Claro is recognized as one of the largest service providers in the Americas region and Eastern Europe. This extensive reach not only demonstrates our reliability, but also underscores our ability to support businesses globally with consistent, high-quality services. Claro today hosts secure web gateways. We have in our data centers a SASE environment implemented to support the customer needs and to make sure we provide the best performance for our customers with all these capabilities. I'm not gonna talk about the specific capabilities here, but in general, I would like to talk about SD-WAN. So we cannot speak about SASE without speaking about SD-WAN. SD-WAN is an integral part of the SASE framework. Our SD-WAN solution is at the core of enhancing application performance and connectivity. By aggregating bandwidth from various connectivity technologies, SD-WAN ensures the application run smoothly and efficiently, which is crucial for improving network performance and latency control. And that is in the core of the SASE environment as well. Additionally, SD-WAN enables seamless communication between branch offices, data centers, and cloud environments. So today we are living in a hybrid environment where we need to ensure that the business operations remain uninterrupted, no matter where your teams are located at. Going into the specific features of the SASE, Claro's advanced web security, content filtering, and device security solutions protect against a wide range of cyber threats, including phishing, ransomware, and malware, by reducing the attack surface and safeguarding sensitive data. With Zero Trust, Firewall as a Service, and Cloud Access Security Broker solutions, Claro delivers scalable, flexible, and robust security measures that control access and protect cloud applications. This comprehensive solution, combined with SD-WAN, offers a great comprehensive security solutions for our customers. Besides the SASE environment, which offers a wide spectrum of security services, we combine different layers of securities as well. As Domenica said, we bring the cyber physical security combined with AI video analytics, which is a computer vision based on artificial intelligence to identify potential threats, not only from the logical perspective, but from the physical perspective as well. And of course, the SASE environment is accompanied by a security operations center to actually correlate and see what's going on in your environment. So this is a comprehensive solutions for security services. Claro Enterprise Solutions is dedicated to providing top-tier performance and security for our customers. Aligned with industry leaders like Forrester, Claro ensures its solutions meet current and future challenges for our customers. We take pride in our customer-centric approach, integrating these capabilities to meet the unique needs of the modern business requirements. Having said this, I'm going to pass the word to Octavio.
Thank you, Cesar. Now let's look into can you, I see now I'm sharing, perfect. Okay, now let us look into the actual landscape of service providers. And this is the result of a research we conducted to assess the business value that service providers bring, what is the maturity in the market, any dynamics that we'll see or we saw in the market, any specific scenarios for which providers are being looked for by their customers and prospects, and eventually give an idea of where the market is going and what enterprises, in this case, technology leaders like yourselves, will be looking for in service providers' engagements. Now, the very first question that will come to your mind is why Zero Trust Edge? Why not SASE? Well, Forrester has a Zero Trust framework overall, and as such, the SASE functions fit into the edge of that Zero Trust framework, and therefore that's how we have defined it, Zero Trust Edge. Now let us go further and talk about the actual market. In the market today, there exist several types of service providers and offerings, and you will notice some concepts right from the start. You know, the concept that is having some popularity is being promoted mostly by vendors, service providers. Some enterprises are starting to understand that concept is network as a service. Network as a service per se provides a way to consume networking services, either traditional, as we thought about connectivity in the past, or local area networks, wide area networks, all consumed as a service. The other concept that has been for a long time in the market is the concept of managed. In this case, managed solutions, specifically managed SASE. It has two connotations that I'm going to talk about in a minute. But before I do that, I want to share with you the very first one. a hosted SASE connotation is coming from those NAS offerings as well as the managed SASE offerings. A hosted SASE is actually a SASE environment hosted either in providers' point of presence or data centers, or leveraging the partner's point of presence. Is traditionally offered as a service and provides consumption-based triggers. Could be based on users, could be based on branches, based on nodes. This is the one that we as Forrester consider a differentiating offering. Nevertheless, there is also the traditional managed services flavor of it. This is the one traditionally offered by managed service providers, managed security service providers. The intention on that managed services is that enterprises or organizations are still buying the technology vendor solutions, and the service provider is in this case delivering the managed service component either as a co-managed, fully managed arrangement. Right? This is appealing for a very large organizations, some public sector organizations that want full control. In this particular research, we focus on that hosted SASE side, the one that provides an as a service model. And this is the market we're gonna talk about in the next slides, right? The Zero Trust Edge service providers landscape is tied to that NAS flavor of SASE. And to be very specific, there is a definition. You will find that definition under that CTE service provider market research. The intention here is to understand that we are looking at organizations, in this case, service providers, that are bringing networking and security services as a service, right? To be consumed as a service. Therefore, when you consume as a service, the networking, the security, the applications needs to be converged, right? That's the point number one. Number two, it needs to be integrated across the buyer's journey or the customer journeys, from the time you're exploring, discovering a service, trying to buy it, all the way to the point of monitoring, operating it, and the fact is that at certain point you will need to renew it. So that's the entire customer life cycle. It needs to be fully integrated. Three, it needs to be easily adoptable or easy to adopt in a way that needs to have the ability to have these Lego blocks of service module selection, flexible pricing schemes that allows an organization like yours to select a service provider, and not only the service provider, but the modules within the service provider offering. Number four, the ability to have a delivery model, either a fully managed or a co-managed model that allows also for end-to-end SLAs, right? It's not sufficient to have somebody managing or co-managing the solution, but also committing to certain service level agreements. And fifth, or not least, it could be delivered by the provider's own infrastructure, or it could be via partnership, and then the partner infrastructure will be used. That's in a nutshell the definition. We want to make clear to the readers that CT service provider market involves these elements and needs to be offered as a service. Now, the business value. What's the business value that this type of CT service provider solutions bring? The very first one is allowing an organization like yours to focus on business outcomes. So one of the main values that a service provider will bring, in this case a CT service provider will bring, is abstracting all that complexity that exists in the market from different solutions, different capabilities. You know, there is always a never-ending list of capabilities, features that are brought by the different vendors. There's also a need for navigating the siloed networking and security environments. It's a reality, it exists. So providers help with that as well as managing some of the transition with existing technologies. Just to mention one, IPVPN to, for example, CTNA. I mean, you need to be aware that one of the values that providers bring is helping you understand how the transition would work, if there's any technical depth or technology baggage that you're carrying, how can you address that migration? So that's the very first one. You know, it allows you to refocus on your business outcomes. It also maximizes your IT spend by having that consumption, cost-effective as-a-service models. It allows to have the CapEx less or no CapEx type of engagements where you go into more of a pay-as-you-grow models. And therefore, that maximizes the IT spend instead of allocating a big budget for CapEx. And last but not least, the scarcity of resources, not only resources, human resources, security experts that are very much in demand in today's market, but also the shortage of equipment itself. We're still at the tail end of what we lived a couple of years ago with COVID. So now we're still seeing that tail end of the effect of supply chain. So having a SASE, in this case, a CTE service provider, will allow you to overcome that particular challenge. Now, if you ask us, what's the maturity? We're talking about CTE service providers, SASE service providers. So what's the market maturity of service providers that offer SASE or CTE? And what are the key dynamics in that market? So the very first thing to understand is this is an emerging market. Why emerging? Providers are still working to create a convergence feeling, you know, convergence feeling from the point of view of converging application, security, networking layers, but also converging the customer life cycle, you know, across the different phases, exposing those different layers, right? Application, security, and networking. So that's still work in progress. The market is fragmented. You have the traditional service providers, telcos. You also have systems integrators, global systems integrators mainly. You have companies that were putting solutions in the market that have also evolved to become a service provider. And last but not least, companies or vendors that have come as challengers to the established service providers that bring cloud-born solutions that are fully focused and tailored to deliver SASE or CTE services. The availability overall is not yet high. And when I say availability, it's nothing to do with service availability of network availability. This is the availability of service providers offering SASE or CTE across the world. It hasn't reached the majority, right? It hasn't reached 60 or 70% yet. You still see service providers that have no SASE shown in their offerings. They stop at offering, for example, SD-WAN without having the offering of CASB, firewall as a service, CTNA, etc. And that's the reality of the market. That's why we have categorized it as an emerging market. The main trend, while providers are working to bring that converged delivery of services, what we see as a trend is that having a single converged service, right, is not going to be a differentiator anymore. It's going to be a table stake. So when you are going to talk to a provider, having application, security and networking all converge into their orchestration and delivery, and having all that exposed at the different customer life cycles phases is going to be table stakes. Now, we are hearing from organizations, and we are hearing that the primary challenge of organizations are executing that risk-free adoption, right? Or migrating, risk-free migration from current technologies, right? I gave example of IPVPN, but that's not the only one. Some organizations have already invested heavily on on-premise, perimeter-based firewall solutions. And now, based on what the cloud migration is dictating as a requirement for them, how remote worker, hybrid work environments are putting more pressures into their technology requirements, they need to evolve. And that evolution means carrying certain technology baggage. So that's one of the challenges we have identified from enterprises. Last but not least, disruptor. Disruptor from the service provider landscape is having a service provider that will leverage technologies like automation, AI, ML for management, orchestration, operations. And more we see that that differentiation also goes into pre-sale phases in the life cycle, you know, in the discovery, buying of services, understanding business requirements, getting those business requirements into initial configuration, templates. So all that pre-sale is also having now a feeling of the use of automation and AI ML. Now that we have identified where is the market, what are the trends, challenges, and disruptor from a service provider point of view, there is a result that I want to show next. And the result comes from asking service providers, not what business scenarios they offer to the market, but which are the top business scenarios for which enterprises or organizations are seeking them to deliver, right? So this is reflecting not the service provider view, this is reflecting the customer and the enterprise's view, right? This is what buyers are actually looking for in a service provider. We're gonna dig into the capabilities that fit into those business scenarios, but the very first thing to understand is once we got those responses back from the various service providers for what their buyers are looking them to deliver, we notice there are certain business scenarios that are very common across the different service providers, right? This is the most commonly seek scenarios by those end customers, in this case, business customers. Those we call core business scenarios. And matching to what we were just discussing a few minutes ago on the trend, where we said having a converge model that goes across the life cycle, having the ability to have application security networking, able to select those ones, those are actually reflected very well in what we found as a core business scenario, right? Core business scenario could be understood as most their providers are actually seek mostly for those one. They're sought mostly for those one, and does not highlight differentiation, you know, across the service providers. I think that's some important thing to highlight here. Core business scenario, when you look into the report findings, the core business scenarios provide you the trends, but does not provide you the differentiation across the service provider. And just to mention quickly those ones from top to bottom, the modularity, you know, the ability to select the services, the managed model flexibility, either co-managed fully or light touch in some scenarios, that single provider experience across the different customer journey stages or buyer journey stages. And lastly, the converged service products, right? Having security, networking, not only the overlay SD1, but also the networking underlay, which is very important. We're going to talk about that later on. But the intention to have that different layers converge into a delivery platform. Table stakes, this is going to be the trend, and this was actually confirmed by the responses from the various providers as a core business scenario. Now, business scenarios that were not addressed by all providers, in a sense that not addressed by what businesses are looking them for, are then categorized into the extended business scenario. Extended business scenario is the one that highlights the differentiation across. There are scenarios, in this case, 6 of them, that touches into technologies that are going into that disruptor discussion we had a few slides ago, right? So the use of AI, the use of automation, ML technologies, but others as well, others as well, like, for example, let's just take the first 3. The customer-centric contractual engagement, right? The ability to have not only the consumption models, different triggers, but also the ability to have certain incentives, certain ability to have dynamic catalogs in order to either buy or renew in a very easy manner. The second one, technology vendor selection, the flexibility to have a specific vendor of your choice, either a single one or a multiple one, is also something that is highlighted as a scenario that differentiates service providers. Third one, zero trust premise setup. That's the ability to ease the adoption, right? So if you have premises equipment that could be easily set up with no touch from your side as an enterprise, as a technology leader, if your team doesn't need to do anything to that premise equipment, it comes pre-configured, then it fetch back to their home controller or for any changes in configuration without the need for you to pretty much configure or set up anything. That's also something that we see as a differentiator, as an extended business scenario. Right? Then the last three gets more and more into ways of automating and smartly adapting and optimizing the delivery of services. Let's take the fourth one, for example, intelligent buyer journey. This is a way to leverage technologies like AI, could be RPA technologies that guide, the buyers when having that discovery of services, shopping for services, help them navigate that, what to select based on the use cases they want to achieve. Application layer integration, the next one. That's all to do with how to bring that knowledge of application into not only the buyer journey, but also the service delivery. And lastly, the holistic service assurance, which combines various technologies like automation, AI, even in some instances, RPA. And that's the ability to orchestrate the services when, for example, an application is suffering. The service provider will need to orchestrate the delivery in order to understand, is that due to an overlay or an underlay issue? How can that be mitigated, remediated, and eventually bring the application back to either a performance guarantee or out of an outage if that was the case. Now let us then, after we have understood, okay, there are core business scenarios which represent table stakes. Then there are extended business scenarios which highlight differentiation across service providers. We took then the task to map what are the capabilities that are feeding into these business scenarios. And the intention here is for organizations like yourselves, technical leaders, technology leaders like yourselves, to get a way or a guide for, first of all, now when you know what business scenarios is priority for you, in this case, which one of these extended business scenarios is priority for you, you can look into what capabilities are actually enabling those business scenarios. And this will allow you to use those references as a guide when selecting a service provider or even a solution provider as well, right? Which capabilities will feed into different business scenarios, allow you to understand what's behind, right? What's capability is behind. Some service providers will have certain capabilities, some others won't. And that's the reason why you could use this as a guide. Then we took the task, okay, we understand core business scenarios, we understand extended business scenarios, we understand which capabilities feed into the extended business scenarios. Now, this slide I think is probably the most important slide in the deck, and this will map the service providers that are actually delivering extended business scenarios, not from their portfolio point of view, but this is based on what customers are seeking them for. Yeah? And therefore, it provides the view of the end customers, right? It provides the view of which provider is being sought after for certain business scenario, in this case, an extended business scenario. You will have in the y-axis the different providers, and in the x-axis across the different business scenarios, in this case, the extended business scenarios that are differentiating service providers. And you will notice the very first three has bubbles across the different service providers, right? They are not core, so that means they're not table stakes. They are extended. However, you see there that service providers are, there's some of them that are actually being sought after for those very first three, right? The customer-centric contractual engagement, technology vendor selection flexibility, and zero trust premises setup. Now, the last three, towards the right of the x-axis, you have the intelligent buyer's journey, the application layer integration, and the holistic service assurance. And those extended business scenarios are the ones that are served by few of the service providers based on what their customers are looking them for. So again, just remember that, you know, this is not what service providers are offering. This is what they are being sought after by their buyers or existing customers, right? Having concluded that view, you know, of service provider mapping to extended business scenarios, also extremely important, because then you need to understand, okay, if I have a business scenario, I know what service provider to look for. I know which one is been serving customers like me with that business scenario. But it's also important to understand, how do you work now that you have identified probably in your shortlist based on the previous table which providers match my business scenario, how to work with service providers, right? And not only that, where is the market going, right? What's the market future? So let us look first at how to work with service providers. So when you as a technology leader, as a networking and security leader, select a CTE service provider, you should select a provider that can do three things mostly, right? First of all, deliver a business optimized services. What does it mean, a business optimized services? I don't know if you recall in one of the very first slides, we talk about providers allowing the enterprise to focus on their business outcomes, right? But that's one side of the story. The other side of the story is the service provider understanding those business outcomes, right? If the service provider understands those business outcomes, they will have the ability to service that organization business objectives. Business objectives like improving customer experience, improving employee experience, having revenue growth, improving operational efficiency. If the service provider understands you as organization focus on business objectives, towards certain business outcomes, that's a provider that you would like to work with. Another, well, the second one, and this is another area that you need to look for, is look for a provider that actually will contribute to your sustainability targets. In this case, every organization have certain sustainability targets. You would like to have a provider that aligns to that, a provider that will disclose from the very first what is their footprint, hardware use, colocation facility use, third parties use, but not only that, eventually be able to even select different routes, different POPs based on the footprint, in this case, the carbon footprint or any renewable energy usage. Eventually, this is going to become a requirement and a compliance point. But it's important for now to understand that you need to start looking into this and have a provider that could contribute to your goals. And third, a provider that could help you achieve holistic assurance. Holistic assurance means the provider will allow you to assure from networking point of view, from services application performance point of view, security point of view, through the different layers, right? Through the different stages where the traffic is crossing. From that very last mile, going into point of presence, going into mid-mile, long mile, and be able to also orchestrate the different layers. If I was giving you an example of an application having an issue, but let's say there is an application that is having collaboration of your employees, and that application is suffering, the ability for the service provider to identify that one, and not only that, orchestrate. Could be an issue with the last mile, could be an issue with the middle mile, but ability to identify, potentially recommend, and the final stage is actually auto remediate or auto heal. Now, looking into the market future directions or key future directions, we have three. We have identified three. The increased enterprise adoption, as the workflows are continue to be highly distributed, as more cyber attacks are coming, cyber threats are appearing. The enterprises are starting to understand that traditional ways of securing those traffic flows are not working. Therefore, the adoption on enterprises is expected to grow. Not only at that large enterprise level, but we also identify a need for that mid-market, even the small, medium businesses going also into understanding that they need to secure both having networking converge with security to secure those workflows that are generated from retail branches, pop-up retail points, point of sales, etc., etc. The second one, edge computing. Edge computing, it's already here, so this is not anymore something in the future. It is being used today. Is now proliferating more and more. Workloads are now distributed into the edge. Applications, data is being hosted there. So what we see, or what we foresee, is that CTNA that was traditionally used for those remote workers or remote workloads, it needs to be now offered by service providers to secure those workloads that reside in the edge. Now you're going to have application clients talking to application servers for, let's say, an API call, right? And there's not going to be a remote workers anymore in that scenario. There's still going to be the remote workings on a different use case, but in that edge scenario, you are going to have a vast number of application clients trying to talk to application servers and vice versa. So there will be the need to secure that traffic when there is not specifically a remote worker scenario. And third, it's expected, and we are already seeing that, service providers, global systems integrators, IT service management organizations, SASE vendor solutions themselves, challengers as well that are cloud-born, natively born as a SASE or a CT provider. They are continue to join the market. There are expectations to have in the next 18 to 24 months more providers joining into that array of players, and that's just the nature of how the evolution is happening from having a silo networking and security to having now a conversion. Now, the last slide I want to show is key takeaways, very quick. We know organizations are struggling to find the right partner, and they want a partner, in this case, a service provider that understands technical depth, can navigate their silo organization, that's a reality, and can help them with migration strategies. Reiterating the point, service providers are moving beyond that single provider experience and converge services, what we discover as table stakes. Now they are evolving to focus more on how to help migration, technical dev, leveraging AI, ML, automation. That's what it will set the service providers apart from each other. A recap on business scenarios, core ones. You could say those are the most frequently sought after, something as a table stakes. Extended business scenarios are the one that provides a highlight of the differentiation across service providers. And within those extended, we saw that certain service providers, or some of them, serve specialized ones, like customer-centric contracts, technology vendors flexibility, and zero-trust premises setup, while very few serve very unique business scenarios like intelligent buyer journey, application layer integration, holistic service assurance. Those ones are powered by the differentiator that we identify, AI, ML, automation, and any other technology like RPA and so on. With that, I leave behind some Forrester research library. You can look at your leisure, and we can move into a Q&A.
Great. Thank you so much, Octavio. Just a reminder again, if you have any questions, so please go on and submit those now. We have about 10 minutes here for some Q&A. We do have a couple questions here. The first question, is SASE replacing SD-WAN?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. We hear that question a lot, not only from enterprises, but also from service providers themselves. I think we need to identify one thing, and I think Cesar referred this during his presentation, right? SASE is an integral component, Domenica also mentioned that. SASE is not going away as a technology. It's part of the SASE framework. So as such, SASE is, SD-WAN will not disappear, right? It's going to be there as part of that SASE framework. What is actually disappearing more and more is those SD-WAN standalone offerings from service providers, right? So they are evolving and they are bringing that SD-WAN offering under the SASE umbrella, which is where it's now belonging on the SASE framework. And in a sense, is disappearing as a standalone offering, but is not disappearing as a technology, right? SD-WAN will still be there.
Great, thank you. All right, our next question. SASE and Zero Trust Edge provides an application-driven policy implementation. Oh, excuse me, sorry. What is the real driver for SASE in a remote worker case?
The remote worker case, yeah, I mean, that traditionally was served by IPVPNs, right? But IPVPNs, for the networking and security leaders that are here today with us, I think you would understand that there was inability to actually drill down into the application layer, with those IPVPN solutions, right? It has a concept of or a concern on scalability, eventually costs, when you were having so much volume on remote workers, etc. So that's one concern. But I think the main concern that we could agree on is that the ability to enforce policies, for example, at the application level, was not there in IPVPN, and CTNA is coming now to fill that gap, help us enforce rules at the application layer and give, for example, a remote worker the ability to connect to applications that the IT department has allowed or approved, and others that are not going to be accessed by the remote worker at all, so there is that granularity that is now possible.
Great, thank you. Okay, who offers as a service SASE and ZTE services in the market today?
Good question, yes. And I want to take one example I was giving before on why emerging market, and the example I gave is fragmented right now, right? There are multiple players. They're offering the two flavors, the as a service or the managed services side of it. But if you look only at as a service, it's very fragmented. There are the traditional providers who have evolved to offer that as a service because they have recognized that will address some of the IT spend, some of the resource scarcity. But not only then, the global systems integrators are partnering with SASE solution providers like Zscaler, VMware, Cisco, Fortinet, Palo Alto, and so on. And they are wrapping around their expertise on managed service deliveries, and they're building an as a service with that partnership in place, right? There are others that came as a vendor solution. I could mention, for example, Ariaka Networks. They were traditionally born as a SASE solution vendor, but they quickly realized that they could also go direct. So now they are also considered as service provider themselves because they can directly offer that to customers. Right?
Yep.
At the end, I think it's important to realize that who has the control on the underlay. To mention examples, I mean, Claro is one clear example, and other providers in North America, right? they have the ability to orchestrate the underlay. So that's a big plus compared to others that were naturally born in the cloud with only partnership to get the last mile from someone. But if that last mile has an issue, they're sometimes stuck, right? Not being able to correct the issue, right? But companies like, for example, Claro, they have that ability on the last mile, and that's a big differentiator. But as you can see, there are different players coming from different angles, right, into the market.
And I think, Octavio, if you allow me, I think
Yes,
what you are saying is very important. We in Claro normally combine 3 different layers, I would say. The underlay, as you said, we are a service provider in 25 countries, so we have the local backbones, the last mile, what we call the underlay services, not only from the MPLS perspective, but also from the internet perspective. Also, we bring that SD-WAN flavor that we are saying is an integral part of the SASE VTA solution and the CTA, the SASE environment. So providers like us gives the possibility to actually custom-make the SASE solution for the customers. And as I said in part of my presentation, we built SASE gateways as needed just to increase performance, enhance reliability, and reduce the latency for certain applications the customer may need for their operations. So when we gain full visibility of the different layers, we bring more value to the customers from the solution perspective.
Thank you, Cesar.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for just one more question. And let's see, how has SASE been implemented in a real life example?
We have several.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we have several cases, and I'm going to pass the word to Domenica. She probably will speak about one use case in the education sector. I would say from the international perspective, we have several implementations in different countries with one central orchestrator, one single point of customer support, full visibility, as I said, of the underlay and overlay networks, and the security services that actually offers the SASE environment. From the education perspective, Domenica, you can explain the use case, please.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Cesar. So we have a real life example of our SASE solution, how it's implemented at a university. So we have 5 main benefits that the university could actually implement in their operations. So they had a more unified security because, as I mentioned before, SASE has different components. So it unifies different security tools into one single solution that is cloud-based. So that helped the university to protect against threats with a more integrated security service. It also helped them with simplified management because, as I mentioned before, SASE is based in the cloud, so it helps you have a centralized control and easy scalability. It also helped the university with an enhanced user experience and also to have a more optimized and secure access for students and staff and also remote students. It also helped them with cost efficiency because it helped them to avoid having multiple vendors and consolidate the technologies into one single provider, and that helped them to reduce complexity and operational cost. And lastly, regulatory compliance. It helped them to ensure data protection laws like FERPA and CIPA, which are super important for the education industry.
Great, thank you so much. Any final comments or thoughts before we wrap up for the attendees today? All right, great. I want to thank you so much, Octavio, for joining us today. And of course, thank you to the Claro team for your participation as well. Thanks everyone that has joined us. And again, be on the lookout tomorrow for a link to the recording. And if you have any questions, additional questions that have come up, feel free to reach out to us. But thank you so much for taking some time out of your day. And everyone have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, everyone.